The body of a British spy is found in his apartment, naked inside of a North Face duffel bag that is padlocked from the outside, with the key to that lock found inside with the body. Is it an accident? Is it a sex game gone wrong? Is it an assassination by a KGB agent? This is the bizarre story of Gareth Wyn Williams. Hey folks, thanks for watching. And if you're into weird, dark, and strange stories, please like and subscribe, and all feedback is welcome in the comments. When I first came across today's story, I said out loud to myself, WTF, but not the acronym. So let's get weird. On the afternoon of August 23rd, 2010, police arrive at an apartment at 36 Alderney Street in London, England, for a welfare check. His sister had reported him missing after he had unusually been out of contact for a whole week. The officers enter the apartment and they see nothing strange. The lights are off, there's no sign of forced entry or struggle. But as they continue to check each room of the apartment, they discover a red sports bag sitting in the bathroom of the master bedroom. The bag is locked from the outside with a padlock. And when they get it open, they find that inside is the naked body of 31-year-old Gareth Wyn Williams, curled into an almost impossible angle, and under his body, inside the bag, is the key to the padlock. Gareth Wyn Williams, which is an awesome middle name, was born September 26, 1978 in Anglesey, Wales. Wales being one of the countries that make up what we all call the UK, which is Great Britain, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. Gareth's hometown is an island of Wales, the Isle of Anglesey, and its population was 69,000 in 2022 and is considered the heartland of the Welsh language. So he's a bit of a country boy, at least compared to the London folk. Not only did Gareth speak Welsh as well as English, but he went on to speak a third language, the universal language. Not love, math. He was so good at math that he got his undergrad degree, his 4-year college degree, by the time he was only 17 years old. Then he got his PhD in math at 22 from the University of Manchester. Folks, a freaking PhD in freaking mathematics by freaking 22. So right here we know we ain't dealing with just some normal dude here. And then at the age of 22, fresh off his PhD, he gets recruited for a job at the Government Communications Headquarters in Cheltenham, England. They call it the Donut, but the reasons for which are classified. The GCHQ, as it's called, is the intelligence and security arm of MI6. Not that. There you go. His particular section is basically England's code-breaking / cybersecurity department. That same department in which nearly 80 years prior, Dr. Strange cracked the Enigma code and ended World War II. It's also the same institution that got a lot of attention in 2013 when NSA contractor Edward Snowden made public some information showing that the US and the UK were collecting online and phone data from all of their citizens. It was these technologies that Snowden had brought to the world's attention that Gareth was actively using in his day-to-day job as a spy. Anyway, Gareth was at the Donut in Cheltenham for 9 years, but had recently been transferred to London for a 1-year assignment, and according to his friends, he had already asked to be reassigned back to Cheltenham when it was over, which is only a few months before his death, stating that he disliked the rat race of London and he wanted to go back to the countryside. So it seems like Gareth's spidey sense was already tingling here. Gareth's death was estimated to have been a whole week before the police did that welfare check and found his body. He did not show up for work for a week. But the frickin' SIS never reports him missing to the police. It was his sister that did. Needless to say, British Secret Intelligence immediately asked the police to make sure that the top secret nature of Gareth's work remain as such. And in fact, he'd been recently doing some cooperative work with the NSA in the United States, having just returned from a holiday to DEF CON in Vegas that was really a collab with the Yanks. So even the US swooped in and asked for the old ixnay on the secrets A. Inside his apartment, police found over $20,000 of high-end women's clothing in his closet. They also discovered in his internet history that on 2 separate occasions he had accessed bondage websites. Which is interesting, but what is far more interesting is that his landlady from back in Cheltenham, well, she reported to officers that she and her husband had 3 years prior to his death heard him yelling for help and had to go to his apartment and rescue him. And what they found was him with his hands tied to his bedposts, and he couldn't get them undone. Is he a crossdresser, or did someone else put that lady stuff in his closet? It's unclear. The clothes were reported to be small enough to fit him, because he was pretty small, like 5'7", but honestly, it's pretty irrelevant. But the old landlady story is what is really interesting. The web history could have been faked, but that event with the landlady was definitely unique, true, and relevant. So the investigators brought in an expert to examine the bag and even hired a small female escape artist who tried 400 times to recreate the circumstance in which he was found. And she could not. It was concluded to be not possible that Gareth could have gotten in the bag and then locked himself in it from the outside, while inside. There were no fingerprints on the bag or lock, his or anyone else's. And the last piece of evidence that we know of, I say that because apparently there were like 9 USB sticks in his apartment and the SIS just nicked them toot sweet as soon as they got there. The heater in his apartment was set pretty high. It's unclear if it would have been due to cold weather or an attempt to, say, speed up decomposition. You see, that right there just so happens to be kind of a standard operating procedure for assassins. The faster you can decompose a body before they find it, the less they'll find in it. It kind of goes without saying here that the government really wanted to button this up super fast. The coroner had other ideas. She reported there to be no injuries or sign of struggle on the body, no alcohol or drugs in the system, and ultimately determined his death as unnatural and likely criminally mediated. Alright, now we're talking. As a result, the Metropolitan Police classified his death as suspicious and unexplained. At least, at first they did. His actual cause of death was CO2 poisoning from the buildup of carbon dioxide in the bag, which would apparently not have taken long at all, like merely minutes. His actual cause of death was CO2 poisoning from the buildup of carbon dioxide in the bag, which would apparently not have taken long, like mere minutes. But the coroner pointed out that she could not rule out short-acting poison, which could have been tested for if the Secret Service had acted earlier instead of letting his sister be the one who reported him missing 7 days after he died. The coroner rejected suicide, bondage, and autoerotic activity as being involved, as evidence of both was extremely sparse in their opinion, and categorized it as media manipulation, which is interesting. And there are a boatload of British tabloid rags sensationalizing the sexual aspects to this case, which totally frustrated the police. And they actually said they felt that this was being done from outside forces to solve the case in the court of public opinion, before it got actually resolved. For 5 years, no movement occurs in this case, only rumors and tabloids. Then, in 2015, Boris Karpachkov, a former KGB agent who defected from Russia and now lived in Britain, he stated during an interview that sources from Russia that he knew claimed that the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service was responsible for Williams' death. And why? He claimed they tried and failed to blackmail Gareth into becoming a double agent. Then, in response to Russia's attempt to blackmail him, Gareth goes and claims that he knew the identity of a Russian spy inside British Secret Service. His threat to reveal who it was that had tried to recruit him led the Russians no choice but to cause his death with an untraceable poison introduced in his ear. Which, I mean, dang! This one guy pops up out of frickin' nowhere with this nice and wacky tale, but, you know, it ain't that wacky. Kinda makes the most sense so far. So, if someone was with him playing a bondage/escape game and they left him there, well, there would be fingerprints somewhere. The only way it seems logical to me that there would be 0 fingerprints, not even his, from all the different ways he'd have to touch the bag and everything around it to get himself in it, was if he was placed in there by someone not only wearing gloves, but likely wiped the place down afterward. Perhaps someone drugged him and put him in there unconscious. Then put that bondage stuff on his computer, the clothing in his closet, just to make it all seem just weird enough, you know? Also, if you gave a short-acting poison to kill someone, you would definitely want to turn the heat up and speed up decomposition. The goal being to make a toxicology report be all but useless. Look, here's the thing though. All of these options sound fantastical and elaborate, until you think about the fact that the Russians are literally known for elaborate assassinations. When they ain't throwing folks out of windows, they're getting fancy. Remember the polonium T assassination of Alexander Litvinenko? Or how about the dude that got stabbed with the umbrella tip that had the ricin pellet in it? Classic. I found this quote from the toxicologist. We do 50 obvious poisons and 50 rare. We only found the polonium isotopes because Litvinenko himself alerted us to it. In the absence of a specific direction, the possibilities are as limitless as a killer's imagination, and we cannot test for that. End quote. So the heater was a game changer, it seems. This is a pro move. But alas, eventually the police shut down the case and concluded that his death was an accident, and he was alone when it happened, completely ignoring the coroner's original conclusions. So clearly, the SIS wanted this whole thing buttoned up and forgotten, and their pressure made it happen. But before we go all in on this Russian agent assassination theory as the winner, it keeps coming back to me that this landlord, 3 years earlier, found him locked to his bedpost needing help. That cannot be faked, like his web history and the lady clothes in his closet, or any other sexual innuendo you want to come up with. This is pretty irrefutable evidence that he really did have a sexual fetish related to being locked up and confined, and that is quite the coincidence if it's not death by misadventure. And therefore, that's why this is the perfect mystery. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Stay weird.